sharing anything right now, so yes, cancel, stop share. All right, Kristen, I don't think you were live. I don't know if you were live with us on the last one we did, but
I
what
was
I'm
not.
gonna,
I tried to go back and watch the video. And some things were really helpful and others I was like, gosh, I wish I'd been there. So
yeah. So just I'm gonna kind of do the same thing I did last time, which it takes some time to share my screen just because there's
sure,
different pop-ups.
sure.
And then while I'm going through it, I'll probably go through the questions that have to do with the case study, just because that's the part where we're actually running the regression. And then like just stop me if you have a specific question.
Okay.
Okay. So I think you can see that I'm in SPSS. I'm gonna import my Excel. And I had saved it under documents, and I know it started with a C. Oh yeah, the computer anxiety quiz.
And this
Okay.
has been the same set of data the whole way through, correct? Like that he's not
You
just
mean for,
running different. The anxiety quiz, it's been the same set of data for all the quizzes so far, right?
you know what? I think it has. I feel like we had one other one,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure. Dr. Haynes, do you remember if there was another one? I feel like, was there a community something, or am I getting that mixed up?
Yes, no, I believe they do come out of the same place. I've
Okay.
looked at them separately just in case something had gotten changed from one to the other.
Okay, cool. So I ran this really fast before we got on here today just to make sure I could still do it. And it was pretty easy. I just did analyze, regression, and this is at the back of the instructions. Linear, and then the dependent variable, I did the trait, and then I did the computer anxiety 1, 2, 3 for the independent. And then in the instructions, it said under statistics, do estimates, covariance matrix, Durbin Watson, model fit, which is already checked, descriptives, and then continue. And then it said to, oh yeah, plots. So I just clicked histogram and normal probability, and I think I got the right answers, but Dr. Haynes, would you move anything to Y or X?
I'm trying to remember what I did. I think that I kind of just picked a bunch of them, and you may get what you want, the Z predicted and Z residual, and
Yeah.
then I utilize somehow the standardized residual standardized.
Did you? Okay. So yeah, I mean
But
on the, yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
you may get everything you want with what you've got now. Okay.
Okay. I'll just do that for now. And then for the predicted values, I'm going to do unstandardized and standardized.
Yes.
And then it doesn't say to click anything else here. I mean, this is what I did earlier, but do you think I should click anything else?
Um, I'm trying. Yeah, I can't remember exactly what I did, but
That's fine. I'll just do
yeah,
those
just go
because,
ahead. Let's see what we
um,
get.
okay. And so I check it. I know that one of the first questions on here was number 6, within the case study data set for the week, what is the Pearson correlation? And so we've got that right up here at the top, also known as the R value, between trait and computer anxiety 2. And it wanted us to give a decimal and then 3 digits after it. So mine came out as 0.503, which is
That's
correct. So, yeah. Kristen, do you have any questions about that?
No. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, and then the next one is it asks you to find the R value again, which is still in the Pearson correlation table between computer anxiety 2 and computer anxiety 3. So 2 and 3, there's 2, and then we come down and find where 3 meets it, and I get a 0.748. Yeah, again, I guess I don't want to give away all the answers, but I do want people
Right.
to have kind of some checkpoints, you know? So that table is basically correct, how I did that. And then if we skip down to number 9, it asks within the case study data set, which table in the output window contains the information needed for the overall model. And I know I usually use the ANOVA table, and it shows you that the dependent variable is trait, and the predictors are computer anxiety 3, 1, and 2. Dr. Haynes, I don't know, does this look right to you?
Well, I'm just seeing
Oh,
I'm not seeing
oh, yeah, you are.
your
Okay.
output. I'm just seeing the input.
Okay. Sorry, let me go back and show people the output. Hope I didn't miss all of that. Okay, so if we go back to the correlations table, which is like we've got descriptive statistics, correlations. So that's where I found my Pearson correlation for trait and computer anxiety 2 is right there. And then computer anxiety 2 and 3 together are 0.748. Make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Yeah, you're seeing the output now, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
To be transparent here, I haven't attempted this weeks. I was out of town and then I saw an email saying that you were going to do this Zoom. And so I was like, let me just
Yeah, sure.
do that before I do something incorrectly and lay down that muscle memory. So the previous quiz, I had a really hard time. I could not find in the recording you said that we would be able to, Dr. Murnane had stated the dependent variable somewhere. I was not able to find that. Is it the trait anxiety? Is that, I was not able to find it in any of his recordings, but I could have missed it somewhere.
So for this one, yes, the dependent variable is trait anxiety, but are you talking about in quiz 6B when we did the other case study stuff?
I couldn't find in the, I'm sure it was some Easter egg hidden somewhere that I didn't.
Yeah, and that's a good question because I'm trying to look at the little instructions that I have here. I felt like I saw that when I clicked on the quiz, but I could be wrong. Let's
Maybe I
see.
am.
So the question for last time, is there a difference in mean computer anxiety 1 scores based on gender and class? And we used fixed factor. So I think the dependent variable would be computer anxiety 1.
Okay, which is what I use. So
Okay. Yeah. Dokie. And then the ANOVA table is what I was looking at next for number 9. Dr. Haynes, can you see that?
Yeah, that's okay. Is this, are we, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's what I've got.
Okay, great. Yeah, we're back
9.442
on
for
quiz
athletic.
7B. Sorry.
Okay.
7B, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was running back to 6B, but okay,
Yeah.
7B. Okay.
Okay. Now, let's see. Okay. Oh, right. I haven't done the box plot yet, but we'll take a look at the histogram and we'll take a look at the PP plot, and then I could create a box plot. Because I
Yeah,
did have
this
someone
doesn't,
else, yeah,
it
ask
doesn't
me
come
how to do that.
automatically out here.
Right. Yeah.
You have to go and calculate that separately.
Right. So, but if we look at the histogram, I actually have a really hard time reading what that number would be. Like, my answers are saying it's negative 0.5, the highest point.
Yeah, I think you can see that with when you go to the left side, yeah,
Okay.
of the decimal. That, I mean, it's not marked on there, but
Uh-huh.
that should be about halfway through.
Okay. And then there were a couple questions, I think, about the PP plot, which um that's pretty, I mean, it just asks, you see that the y-axis is expected Hume prob, and then it's asking like what the x-axis displayed, so that's pretty straightforward. Let's see. Do. And I see Will is on here. Will, do you have any specific questions for us?
No, since the last quiz and this current one, I've really struggled far more on this chapter. I still wanted to take a second chance at the last quiz. I've been rereading. I thoroughly read through my book and take notes,
Mm-hmm.
but I just got lost. And it between the last quiz and this one, I think I just compounded my problems because I just couldn't catch up enough. And this last chapter is a really long.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to take in and learn, and trying to do that and apply it to the SPSS at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, it has been very difficult for me. I will admit, I've been struggling pretty hard with it, but I'm slowly making progress. I've been watching some videos on YouTube, and I watched your other video you had on here.
Oh, good.
It's helping, and uh, I just feel like I'm under the gun now because we're down to the last week, and I've really struggling hard with some of this, but no
Yeah.
specific questions. It's just I think there's some concepts I haven't fully grasped yet is part of it. Like
Okay.
one of the main ones, which test do you use for this type of um data set? That
Mm-hmm.
is still giving me some problems there. And I think that also
Mm-hmm.
doing the SPSS side of things. So because looking at the data sometimes I'm like, am I even looking at the right numbers? Am I
Right.
picking the right thing? It's just
Mm-hmm.
I'm steadily reviewing and I'm making some progress, but it's been a lot to take in for me. I'm afraid to say.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
you're not the only one.
you're
So
not alone.
yeah.
Uh, but just remember, Dr. Murnane gives you kind of when the problem is put out to you, he says you will utilize the multiple regression test. And then he says, read the textbook for further instructions under SPSS, analyze regression, linear header, so forth. And then he says, complete the estimates, covariance matrix, model fit, Durbin Watson, and so forth. So he's saying where you see those kinds of choices appear, either check the box or put a dot in it or whatever, but make sure that that's going to come out in your output. And I'm just new to this course myself, so in the future, I think I'm going to try and give a few check values, like you were saying, that says you're on the right track if, in fact, you got a correlation of whatever it might be for this particular quiz item. And therefore, you would know that at least some of what you put in is correct in terms of getting values out. So I'm just making notes on this for future applications. But you're raising a good point. But just remember that close reading is really important here, and then following the kind of little hints that are given in terms of the number of decimal places or number of digits that will be submitted. Often people get those wrong because they put too many numbers in, and the crazy thing won't accept that, even though the answer is correct. It's got, 3 decimal places instead of 2. So looking at that little x dot xx or whatever it might be is really, really helpful. So just some thoughts there, but you're, as I say, you're not alone. This is an awful lot of material that's being covered in a you know, kind of introductory course. So just be aware of that. Please, Dr. Romes, go ahead. I think we're
Sure. Okay.
moving well.
Let's see. What was I going to go to next? Okay, let's look at number 12. Within the case study data set for this week, the findings should be described in a formula equation. In addition to the values for each of the independent variables, the unstandardized prediction coefficient includes a constant. Let's see if we can find that. Oh yeah. So I would just go to the coefficients table and look for constant. So really, I know from some questions I've gotten, it's almost just like people get so overwhelmed because there's all these different like coefficients, unstandardized, standardized, standard error. Like, so just be really careful that you're paying attention to exactly what they're asking you for in the question. Let's
Yeah, but
see.
this is the a key table
Yeah.
in any regression, but especially multiple regression, because in fact you see outlined there the coefficients that will go into a so-called prediction equation.
Mhm.
And so those are unstandardized. Most people want to predict if this had been like freshman year GPA based on high school overall GPA and SAT scores or ACT scores or whatever it might be. You could have a bunch of variables out there, but the point is that you will see I don't want to predict in standardized units, which is the beta. Okay, there's B, unstandardized, and there's standardized coefficients beta. There's a huge difference there. And so I want my prediction equation to tell me exactly what the freshman GPA will be. Now, of course, it won't be exact, but give me a projection based on these values that you see under B. So all four of those, including the constant, go into that prediction equation. And you see there's only one constant.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay. So, let's see. Okay. I'm
I'm good.
just gonna mute her so she can hear us, but we won't hear the background. Um, okay, a few of these other questions I see are just a matter of looking over this output and finding the outcome for the Durbin-Watson, unstandardized prediction equation coefficients, and the value for certain independent variables. Now, let's try to do the box plot. So I might have to like take a moment and reshare my screen, but I go to graphs and then I go to box plot. And when I tried to do this, I left it on simple
Yes.
and I can't remember if I did separate variables or groups of cases. What would you?
Right. I think that's right.
And then the boxes are going to represent, wait, I just totally forgot how I did this earlier. I can
Yeah, you
either,
got
okay,
there's four variables, trans, dx, and
put that in the boxes represent part as well, or,
yeah, that's fine.
okay. And then what should I label the cases by?
I think you can just leave that blank.
Okay.
If you had a set of labels, that'd be fine, but there you go.
Okay, so there, and the nice thing about a box plot is, I mean, how easy is it to find your outliers?
Yeah, now remember, those circles represent moderate outliers. They're not the bad guys. The bad guys would be asterisks if they were there, and those are extreme outliers. I don't want to confuse the situation, but just keep that in mind that that's what you want.
Yeah,
Which,
right. So that would help for, let me see, where was that question? within the case, number 16 asked, within the case study data set for this week, which independent variable, so even though we've got trait on there, we can ignore it for this question, displayed an outlier in the box plot. And it was obviously computer anxiety 2.
Right.
But like Dr. Haynes said, it's moderate. So, but I don't think we have to like answer anything about that for this.
No, there's no, not just pointing that out for your future
Yeah.
reference, but notice how it's worded. Reading these things absolutely precisely is the key, because somebody might say, well, wait a minute, for those 4, I've got 2, I'll pick one or the other. But it says for the independent variables, okay, so knowing that the common X 1, 2, and 3 of the independent variables helps in making that decision.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then so I think so much of the rest of this, once you've figured out how to run the regression in SPSS, I think you're going to have a lot easier time on the quiz. But I will say I actually got stuck with something, and I'm interested to see if Dr. Haynes can unstick me. So questions
stick.
not 19 and 20.
Yeah, that was not clear.
Yeah, that
What I-
was
what I think is going on, I could be wrong, somebody tell me. I'm glad to be corrected, but what I think is going on is it's almost as if when it says, because there's 3 answers, when it says, okay, what if I change the value? In other words, I've got this crazy unstandardized prediction equation, which has all of these things in it, including the, if you will, the constant. So think of setting down that unstandardized prediction equation as the constant, and then, or you can put it at the end, which is the usual case, and then each of these values. And if somebody then said, I want to make a prediction from that, okay, and you have, we go back to the coefficients table here, you have the coefficients there for you, okay, unstandardized coefficients on your coefficients table. So it's negative 0.047 common x1, whatever that might be,
mhm.
and then plus 313 common x2, whatever that happens to be,
Okay.
and 0.268 times common x3, whatever that happens to be. And then that will give you the trend. You see below that table, it says dependent variable trend Tx, and that will give you or yield trend Tx, okay, which is usually given as y prime, meaning predicted, because all of this is, it's not solid. It's not always going to be the case, but it's the predicted value. So now, given that, then you're being asked to take these, and I'm reading this probably incorrectly as saying, if the value, in other words, we're looking at 19, utilize the unstandardized prediction equation coefficient, provide the predicted score. So if for common x 1, 73 is put in, that's whatever this represents, computer anxiety or whatever, if that score on some instrument is 73, then I'm thinking, because there's 3 answers, that the only one that matters here, kind of dropping out common x2 and 3, and somebody, if you have a calculator or something, which has proved me entirely wrong here, but if that's the case, it has to be wrong, because that should be a negative, shouldn't it? Then times negative 0.047. So maybe I'm thinking about it wrongly. But
Yeah.
it technically, if you put all 3 in, you should only have one answer.
Yeah, that's where it kind of threw me off. I started to try to do different equations, and then that, how it has like 73 and then number 2 has 51. Yeah.
Yeah, but if we put them all in, you only get one answer. In
Oh,
other
yeah.
words, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it's giving us multiple.
And it's giving us 3
Yeah.
possible answers in that particular, in a format that is not obvious
Mm-mm.
from the, in other words, who would know to put the 2 forward bars there
Right.
between each answer. So I
Mm-hmm.
guess I would have to contact Dr. Murnane and see if we can get an answer to why that is set up like it is. It just seems a little strange to me. And
Yeah.
but if any one of those works, then that might be helpful. Comex 2 might. In my mind, they're being offered separately within the prediction equation with kind of 0 for the other, like Comex 2 and 3. But again, as I say, that can't be right with a negative value there. So that's kind of my take on it, which is probably obviously I don't think correct. So I need to find out what it is that is being offered and presented. Now, obviously, some students have already gotten that correct. I'm not sure if they're on board now, let us know.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it stumped me too. I tried it several different ways and wasn't getting any of the answer options. So, if I somehow figure it out tonight, though, I can put an
Well,
announcement in the class.
yeah, I'll contact
Okay,
Dr.
yeah,
Murnane.
if you want to ask Dr. Murnane, he'll know quicker than I
See
will.
what his intent here is, because
Mhm.
as I say, this, out of all of these, they all look pretty straightforward until we get to this. And
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I mean, if it's Durbin Watson, it's Durbin Watson, that's what it is. But
right.
these others seem to be standardized in the value for combination 1. Okay, well, that's fine, but that doesn't help. So that would be a plan. We'll try and get back to you, all of you, make an announcement as to exactly what the plan is for numbers 19 and 20.
Yeah, that sounds good. So yeah, I think if people just rewatch the
Hi,
beginning
Dr.
where,
Haynes and
yeah.
Dr. Roms.
Hi,
Which
Dimitri.
I know you went over 19 and 20. Which other ones did you go over? I'm sorry.
Well, number 1, I set up the regression and showed on SPSS how to run the data set in there. And then I talked about question 6, 7, 9, I think 11, maybe 12, 15, 16, and then because really once you set it up correctly, you're going to find pretty much all of the answers except for, like, I got stuck on 19 and 20. So that's
So did
where
I.
Dr. Haynes is going to, yeah, Dr. Haynes is going to talk to Dr. Murnane for clarification. Does that help, Demetria? Oh, you're muted.
Okay. Sorry. I'm leaving work. Sorry. So I'm probably going to contact you anyway because I missed 3 and 19 and 20. So those were 2. And then there's one
Okay.
other and I can't remember which one it was. So I will contact you about that one. And I had a question about the test that we talked about before, Dr. Haynes, but I'll contact you. I'm so sorry. Okay.
It's fine.
Just trying to get to the car.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, and this is being recorded, so if you want to catch anything you might have missed, just watch the
Okay.
recording.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Does this get better with time? Like the more, because I'm listening to you guys talk and I'm just like, what are you talking about? I just need to go back and watch it, and with the data in front of me and the quiz in front of me, I know I'm gonna rewatch this like 3 times. But
Yeah.
The jargon that you use, I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, it is like I said in the last video, I feel like it's similar to learning another language where you almost need a bunch of flashcards. Like I just have a whole stack of 3x5 cards on my desk where I've written out the equations for things for my for my dissertation, and also to remind myself of like what the Pearson correlation, if it's strong or weak, because unless you're doing this every day, I don't
Mhm.
think it's all going to stick in your head. And so for me, like I took this class, 2 years ago, and then took the statistics modules with Dr. Haynes. Then I finished my dissertation in March. But I mean, I would say when I was doing the statistics for my dissertation in December, I was just every single evening sitting with all these flashcards with all my notes from the statistics courses, because it's like you can't remember how to conjugate a verb unless you've done it recently, So that's where I say just keep lots of notes, remind yourself, and consider maybe a membership to like Laird Statistics or Statistics Solutions. Consider if you don't have the textbook for the class on Kindle, I have it on Kindle so that I can word search. And then like the Dr. Todd Grande videos, I find that he speaks in such a I don't know, just like a common manner that's not as like mathematical, to where he's like, here's what the dependent variable really means. You want to know how much this relationship affects this. And I'm not explaining it very well, but I just find when I'm in these classes or these situations, you just have to like get really deep in it and stay there for the duration. I
Yeah,
don't know if anyone ever glides through these. I mean, I don't know.
it's just like Dr. Evans was saying, if you do it every day, and I've worked with some of these people, and they can look at the basic descriptive statistics in a lot of cases and tell you what's going to happen before you run the procedures. They're that good. They've seen so many hundreds and thousands of tables of this kind of thing, and then run it later, or somebody else did run it, and it came out pretty much the way they saw it. So you do get real good. Unfortunately, I'm not that person. I wish I were, but I've never been in an environment where this stuff was just run all the time. So I'm having to refresh myself as we go back on these things, and I've got notes on different techniques and so forth. Some of which I'll put on students' papers when I grade them. Some of which I won't bother with. But nevertheless, it's not easy. Okay, this is a whole nother language, and if you if you go into a party somewhere and start asking people whether they think the Kolmogorov-Smirnov test is a better overall test regardless of the actual in size, they're like, so what are you talking about? They have no idea. So a lot of this is just kind of getting through. Unfortunately, we're entering a world where I've now posted put some of these questions, one from this course, to ChatGPT, and it came back with the same answer that the Rovi textbook recommended, but it wouldn't be the one that I would use. And so I go with UCLA statistics in their Advanced Computing Center. I'm more in tune with them, but that's not exactly how Dr. Murnane would look at it. So there's different ways to look at some of these things, and the best thing you can do is just understand that's the case. And now, if you want to pony up the money, or you get somewhere in a position with if you're doing something else but you need stats, there's usually like a downtown center or someplace where you can send your request to get something analyzed, gets analyzed, sent back to you, and you don't have to worry about whether you know a formula or not. And again, this crazy intellectus statistics with, trying to think of the guy's name, James Lanny or something like that. This guy will, in effect, I wouldn't advise doing this, but in effect, you can send him your research question and whatever associated data sets you have, and he will analyze all of that and produce what he thinks is the best approach to that with various techniques. and he will write chapter 4 of your dissertation for you, or the results chapter in a research article. And then he will send you back a videotape, about an hour and a half, of him defending what he did. So consequently, for, I'm thinking, about $2,000, and if you're working for some place that doesn't mind spending some money, then you get that. If you took archival data, then you could buy back into chapter 3 and just use whatever came out as the results and interpret that as your methodology. So you would have chapters 3 and 4 completed. So I'm not saying it isn't out there for people to do it, and this with Chat GPT will become increasingly the case where it's free. You just go out and pose a problem. Chat GPT goes through and gives you what I thought was a fairly reasonable explanation. And so, who knows? I don't know where we're going with this. Don't be surprised if you get to some meetings in the future. I may have said this before, where people stand up and say, well, of course, we don't use p-values anymore. Okay, well, that SIG column is not important anymore. What is important is the practical significance, which is like partial eta squareds and things like that, effect sizes. So things are changing. I just want you to be aware of it. So don't be surprised if you're somewhere and somebody says, oh yeah, well, those things, and to some degree, I've been trying to lead a bit of that charge against the p-values, but I don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. You want a good defensive p-values. Sue Chow's, I think, 1998 text is the best I've seen. But all of this has value, and there are other ways of looking at it. So just think you're scratching the surface here, and there's some amazing things that are going on that we couldn't have anticipated 5 years ago or even 2 years ago. The world is changing fast.
Yeah.
ChatGPT, do everything.
Yeah, I had a relative in a work meeting and somebody put a data set through Chat GPT and it, pumped out all the answers. And my mom called me and said, oh, you should do this for your dissertation. And I said, well, no, I want to do it myself. Like, I want to feel that accomplishment. But I've had friends here pay other people to do their stats. I mean, they're just, you're getting through it to be a principal or whatever, like doing your EDD and all that. But I was doing a PhD because I want to know how to research and write. So I was like, I want to know how to do it. I want to say I did that. And it was like the same amount of accomplishment as when I had my 3 children. So
But
I felt, I did a
Yeah.
lot of work.
You didn't have a surrogate. Okay.
Nope, didn't have a surrogate. That's right.
I have played around with ChatGPT and then gone through the directions, and not every time are they. So I must be making a mistake on my end, because sometimes the answers are not the same. And so I must be messing, I must be not putting something into one of those prompt boxes correctly. So it is just going to take me a long time, I feel like, to understand how to use SPSS.
Yeah, and I think
Well,
like Chat GPT, it's not perfect. I think you kind of almost need to know how to talk to it from because I've tested stuff too, Kristen. Usually I try to get the answer on my own, and then I go in and say, hey, Chat GPT, how would you find the blah, blah, blah for the blah, 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 whatever. And the other thing is, like, I've asked it to do other things, like write a little story about so-and-so for like a work birthday card. And I kind of realized, I think I'm smarter than Chat GPT. Whoever's writing the answers to these, like, this wasn't well written. So, I mean, I do think they can do a basic math equation, but I think you need to kind of know how to talk to it.
And they don't have access to SPSS, so they're running their numbers on a different system. Whatever they have, whatever is open AI has access to.
Right. Yeah.
Well, the problem is ChatGPT is getting better all the time. We think we might be, but not at the rate this thing is going. So it can look at different approaches, like SAS, another competitor of SPSS, has what I think is the best approach, which is a max R squared to these regression things, not looking at backward or whatever, but just maximizing the R squared value or adjusted R squared. And so and that's been around forever. So in my mind, I use SAS because I felt it just gave a better approach. But that's just kind of picking and choosing.
Right.
Just remember, this crazy ChatGPT gets better and better and better, and there's no stopping it. People want to legislate things. The cat's out of the bag.
Right.
The
Yeah.
horse is out of the barn. It's you got nations competing against nations to get the best version that they can make of artificial intelligence. So it's a whole new ball game. And
I have a friend who's actually a professor at Syracuse, and when he says now, he tells his students, "Have you checked with ChatGPT yet?" before he even answers the question, because he's like,
Wow.
2 years ago he was like, "That's plagiarism," and now he's like, "Ah, could you just ask ChatGPT before you email me, please?"
Oh my goodness. Sometimes I do wonder why people don't Google before they email certain questions, but not usually related to statistics, just really basic other things. But
Correct.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, if there's no other issues or questions right now, we'll shut this down and try and get an answer for 19 and 20.
Okay. Awesome. You're
Yeah,
gonna
and
Okay?
upload
I'll try
this?
to trim this video and pop it up in your announcements or in a module in a little bit, I guess.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
God bless you guys. Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Bye, Will. Bye, Demetria.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, Kristen.
Okay.